Gude! Hi! Today's video will be another technical walkthrough video, and I would like to show you how I set up a TTS model training for a Glow TTS model based on my recording in progress new Thorsten neutral dataset. And for that kind of setup I will use Coqi's latest TTS version 0.2.0 and a Coqpit version of 0012. You are asking what that Coqpit thing is I'm talking about. Okay, Coqpit is a simple configuration management built on Python classes developed by the guys at Coqui. You are unsure what that means because you're using or known to that huge config.json file? That's a really good question. Okay, so sorry for that little embarrassing one-man roleplay thing. And I have no idea if you asked yourself the same questions I did, because in the previous trainings I did, I always trained with that huge config.json file as input. And that input, I mean, probably all of you know that huge file. So with lots of parameters and general settings, audio settings, dataset relevant configurations. And I know that there has been some discussion some time ago on the Coqui community, because that JSON, probably the most parameters in that JSON file are not self-explaining. And so as lots of us are technical people, what's more obvious than add a // at the end of each line and add a comment? So everybody can read what this special parameter is about. But when you think on a JSON file, and I think JSON, a valid JSON does not have any inline comments. So there has been some discussion. Maybe I can link that discussion in the comment or under that video. But at the end, the guys at Coqui, they developed a simple Python class-based configuration management. And ta-da! Coqpit. So, and as I was used to that config.json, and the current training of Glow TTS is the first time I had to find out how to set up a training without the config.json, but instead on that Coqpit classes thing. And to be honest, I struggled a little bit. And even if it's really good documented on the Coqui TTS documentation, I had lots of try and error until I knew how to set this thing up. And that's probably one of the reasons I would like to share that with you, because maybe you will have the same questions, such as, and for obvious reasons, all of the configuration parameters, they are still required. So if they are not part of a big config.json, where are these values now? What are the default values? And where and how might or can I adjust these values if I want to set and try different values? So, okay, that's it. Let's go into it, and I will show you how I found my way through that layers of Coqpit configuration. First of all, what I will show you, I'm not sure if this is the best practice as the guys from Coqui would like to have it. So it's just the way I figured it out, config handling by myself, or in addition to the documentation and some feedback from the community. So that's the way I personally figured out. There might and probably there will be better ways of doing it. So first of all, let's go to the GitHub page of Coqui TTS repo, and you will find a link to the documentation in that box. Let's check the documentation, and we have a special link for the configuration. You will find some Python examples based on a TTS model training and a hierarchy of all these different layers. So, this being said, before we go to that Coqpit layered configuration, I would like to show you the well-known config.json. Let's open it here in my Visual Studio Code. That's the configuration file I used for my TTS model training. And I will not really go through all values, but what's easy to see is that every line on that red summary here is red, because every line is marked as an error because comments are not permitted in JSON. You can see this in that hovered error message. So that's probably one of the reasons why the guys from Coqui developed Coqpit. So, and you can see some blocks here in that config.json. We have an audio block with that Fourier transformation stuff. We have a block for distributed training, some generic basic value configuration values, dataset specific parts, and part for GST key values. So that should be all, because the config.json is probably well known by most of you. So let's minimize that one and that one. And I will jump to my, I'm connected to my training machine, and let's make it full screen. So I would like to start with the layers as far I understand them. Coqui TTS offers several models or supports various model types. And the first decision is, do I want to train or use a TTS model or a so-called vocoder model and a voice encoder model? And for each of these two categories, TTS or voice encoder, there are plenty of more available and supported models. So, because I would like to train a TTS model, I would show examples for TTS model configuration. The same might be comparable for the voice encoded model tests or trainings. So I have cloned my latest stable tag version 0.2.0, and let's go in that TTS subfolder, which is probably known, and in the config file or config subdirectory. We here have a shared configs Python file. And when I open this, we can see probably lots of documentation, which is really great. And let's see, we have here basic options like that Fourier transformation stuff and sample rate and stuff, whatever. We have lots of known keys and values. So we see the well-known keys, the type they are defined to be, and a default value. So I will not go into detail on all of that. We'll come to that more detailed level later on. We have several classes here, such as a base dataset config, where we have the name, for example, LJ speech, path, metadata stuff, and so on. We have basic training configurations, such as the model or the name of the training run we are going to start. So here are some subclasses with different configuration values that might look familiar compared to that config.json logic. But that's probably the lowest, as we say in Germany, der kleinste gemeinsame Nenner, so the least common shareable configuration. I have not really chosen, do I want to train or use a TTS model or a voice encoder model. So that's the basic level of configuration. In that hierarchy, I have a subfolder TTS and a vocoder. So within, depending on TTS model training or voice encoder model training, I will jump to that TTS subfolder, and in that subfolder we have again a configs directory, and here again a shared configs Python class and special configuration Python files for all the supported TTS models by Coqui. So, but let's start with the shared configs. Because what's in that is it's specific for a TTS model training, but might be shareable across Align TTS, Glow TTS, Tegatron 2, and so on. So here are the special overwritten values that are relevant for TTS model training. So you can take a look here, what's special for TTS model training, such characters configuration, if you have any special character definition here. But I would like to show the Glow TTS example. So I'm in my main TTS folder, in the TTS subfolder with lower cases because I want to train a text-to-speech model, and then in my Glow TTS config file. So, and here's all that configuration stuff which is relevant for TTS model training and a special Glow TTS training or models. And again, I have lots of parameters, but within that file, I have just these values that are special for Glow TTS configuration. So no need to copy and paste all of the configuration key values from the first level, from the first shared level, but just adjusting these values relevant for that specific model configuration. So, but that's not the end of it. So I have shared configuration for all TTS voice encoder, I have special TTS model configuration, and I have special configuration for Glow TTS configuration. But what about my personal dataset, which might be a public dataset or a private dataset? So there might be values I would like to adjust depending on the dataset I'm using for training. And that's probably the place where we can jump one hierarchy up and go to that receipts subdirectory. And the receipts subdirectory offers samples for two public datasets. Probably I will send in a pull request for adding my Thorsten public dataset too. But let's go to the probably widely known LJ speech. And we have here some subfolders for TTS model training or voice encoder model training. I will go to the Glow TTS. And we have here a simple Python file with some configuration stuff. And I will use this file as a template for my own Thorsten-based model training. So what I will do is simply I will add a new folder, call it the way the dataset is named. Let's take a look, and Glow underscore TTS. Let's take a new folder, Glow underscore TTS. And to make it easy for me, I will copy that from the LJ speech and paste it in my Thorsten directory. I now have the same directory structure or a reduced structure just for my Coqui TTS configuration. So, and let's go back to the documentation. Where is it? Where is my Coqui TTS documentation? Show yourself. Let's check the training. So that's probably the easiest way to start a training once you have done all the configuration stuff. When you have that special train Coqui TTS Python script, as I'm developing or configuring right now, you just can run the Python with that Python script, and that's all. So our goal is now to configure that special train Coqui TTS Python script, which I copied and templated from the LJ speech subdirectory, and adjust it to my audio settings of my dataset, to my special character requirements, to my audio parameters, or all the values that differ from the layers below. So the values that are special for a Coqui TTS model training on my Thorsten dataset. So let's go back and try to find out what to change to that templated train Coqui TTS Python script. We have some basic imports for dataset configuration, Coqui TTS relevant configuration, and the main block is that config for Coqui TTS config. And as you can see, it's just the relevant values to be changed for that LJ speech dataset. That block above is a similar block to that Coqui TTS config, but I'm not a huge fan of that inline syntax, so I will make it this way, so it's probably more visible that's a similar block. So I have that instance of base dataset configuration with all the stuff, name of the dataset, name of the metadata CSV file, and the directory where all my dataset, my waved files are in. So in that case, by default, it's one level above, and then the LJ speech 1.1 directory. I will adjust it to my local dataset. So let's make it this way. So that's the path my current dataset is in. And just if you would like to adjust, let's say, the audio parameters, such as the sample rate, or if you have a pre-computed NumPy file with all statistics by that compute statistics helper script, which is part of the audio block. So you'd like to adjust audio relevant settings. Let's say we have audio config, and now let's make it an instance of base configuration. So we need a base audio config, and as you can see, that's not offered here because we have not imported it so far. So I would add an import of base audio config, and hopefully, so we have now base audio config. Let's say I will adjust my sample rate here. Okay, let's save. But when we scroll a little bit down and see that that's initializing training process, it's just giving the config, and that means that one as argument. So that audio config here will probably not be recognized. So what we have to do, we have to add our audio or special audio configuration to that point. So let's add an audio and then our audio config. So with that adjustment, we can add all the key values we known from the config.json, from that block audio, add an override here for that special dataset configuration. Let's say what's probably easy to add is the run name, because it's part of the directory structure which is being created. So that's part of that basic configuration. So it's called the run name, test run. So try or avoid blanks, because it will be part of the output file structure. So it's really annoying to struggle with white spaces in directory path. So avoid white spaces. You can add comma run description so whatever. So that, and let's check if there's anything else. As my data set is German, or I am training a German model, I would like to change the test sentences that are being synthesized every, I think, 1,000 steps and can be listened to on TensorBoard. So let's add test sentences as a list. So, dieser Satz dient als Test. What else? Ich hoffe, dass ich mit meiner Stimmspende einen wertvollen Beitrag für die Gesellschaft leisten kann. So that should be okay. So what else can I show? If you run a training with special characters, maybe it's helpful to add that block we have seen when it comes to character configuration. So let's make another block here. Let's say character config, and that's character config. And as we did previously, we should add that import. We have a character config class. And now I should be able to add that character config. I have tried it before, and so I can just copy and paste some of the longer examples, because I do not want to enter every character individual. So, and again we have to edit, or not edit, we have to add that special character configuration block to our main configuration. Let's add it here, and it's characters, and we have characters config, character config. So let's save that. So what we did is we added some imports and have overwritten some data from the default values depending on our dataset requirements. So that's probably, I would like to change more values or set this to basic German cleaners. Okay, I think it's basic German cleaners, but my goal is not to show you how many try and errors I need to set up a correct working configuration file for my training. My goal is that you get an idea on how this process is working. So that should be it. I'll try to open a new terminal here. Let's activate my Python virtual environment, which I set up, and run all the requirement or installed all the required packages. And let's see what we get. One thing maybe I forgot. We have that output path, and that will be relative to that receipts Thorsten Coqui TTS. You can adjust it as I did for the dataset path, but in that case I will stick with the defaults. So I'm now into my receipts folder with that new Thorsten subdirectory and Coqui TTS, and there's just this one configuration file in. So let's give this one a try and see, hope for the best and see what we got. Okay, here's obviously character config. What's the issue? Okay, let's check. I will not cut that one out because I would like to show you I'm no professional configuration manager, so I'm struggling with the same issues you probably have or will struggle with. So let's go into my TTS shared config and let's see if we have a character. Here, character. Characters config. Let's check it again. Character configs not defined. Okay. Totally makes sense. Okay, maybe I should cut it out. It's the character. Characters config. What did I miss here? Character con. Did I forget to save it? No. Character. Characters config. Oops. Oopsie. Characters. Okay. It's time for a break. Characters config. Oh. So. Hey. When you put the S at the right position, things might work. So nice. So let's check our sample rate. Okay, so that's not really helpful because it's the default value. I will cancel that and let's, for example, make just for demo purposes, let's set it to 12,000. Just to a value which is different from the defaults. So, and run it again. And if things work out, we should have a sample rate. Okay, it's working directly. So let's see. So you see the sample rate has been adjusted. So this special configuration is working. We have, let's check. We have that test run name we set here. Anything else? Probably the main changes we made. So let's test run 1, 2, 3. Right now we had that directory test run minus timestamp and the normal stuff. And let's run again with a valid sample rate. So, and now we have that. We now have, where are we? That test run 1, 2, 3 as we configured it in our Thorsten Coqui TTS model training configuration stack. So that's not too easy. And the good thing is we have now that subdirectory here, and in that subdirectory we have a config.json that is written and created by the training process. So because lots of Jupyter notebooks or helper scripts, they take that config.json as a command line argument input. So we can open that, which is created by the training process, and we see in the summary here, nothing is read because we have no inline comments. It's just the created config file. Now let's take a look here. We have the test sentences included, and all the values from that complete stack over one and another Python class and the overwritten and added values. Okay, so that's probably all I want to show you right now. So that's it for today's video. As always, I hope you find that type of video helpful. In that case, make that subscribe, thumbs up, whatever comment thing. And I wish you a pleasant and nice rest of the day. And we will meet us on the well-known communities. So that's it. Bye.